This is not good. There we go. That's better. Hey, y'all. How are you guys? Hi, Sunrise Dawn. I didn't expect you here. Not in the least. I figured you'd be over with other people. It's so nice to see you. I'm sorry I'm late, y'all. I'm so sorry I'm late. Oh, Soda's gonna come see us. He's gonna grace us with his presence. Hold up, y'all. Here he comes. Hi, Cubana Chica. How are you? Perfect timing. Wow, look at me with the perfect timing. I didn't realize she just finished. My son called, and so that's why I'm late. I had to chat with him. So you guys get the kitty cat right from the start. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to go potty before I started this stream. I am going to be a sorry girl. I am going to be a sorry girl. Yeah, the sun, the nature goddess, she did make it so it wasn't raining much this afternoon. So we probably could have gone to protest. But it was cold and wet, and none of us like cold and wet. Hey, Oregon Valley girl, how are you? Boy, you guys are getting a real close up today. Yeah, hi there. Tell everybody hi. Yeah, tell everybody hi. We're getting her time. This is the ASMR, ASMR. This is the ASMR version of our live. Tired from being up late with Laura and the LA peeps? Yeah, I went to bed early last night because I was so tired all day yesterday. I got no homework done. So we're really going to have to kill it today, y'all. Yeah. It's not like you have a shortage, Dawn. It's not like you have a shortage. Oh, that's great, Chica. Hi, Marissa. How are you? I think it's been a long time since we've seen you. I'm glad you're here. We are having the ASMR portion of our show right now with Soda Cat. Soda Cat decided he wanted to come up and see all y'all just as I started. So he is making biscuits with my belly. Hi. It's so good to see you too. I am doing well. I am feeling much better today. I got a good day of rest yesterday. So now I know 3-4 days in a row is too much for me. I need to make sure and have more breaks in there. It was a lot. I just have to pace myself a little bit more than I did. Now what are you going to do? You got to clean my nose. There you go. He has got a grumpy face. Callie and Oreo and Skylar. Good sunrise, Dawn. He does have a grumpy face, but he is not grumpy. He is lovable and easygoing, and the dog comes up to him and yanks on his tail to try and get him to play. Orion wants Soda to play with him, and so he comes up and he grabs a hold of his tail and yanks and yanks. I don't think I've ever seen Soda even try to hurt him. I got this today from when he was jumping up earlier because we timed things wrong. And yeah, lunch with Lisa was lovely. It was just Lisa and I and her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend, because with the weather, we decided not to protest today. So I met Lisa close to her place so she wouldn't have to drive. And we had Chinese, and it was just lovely. My husband stopped in because he wanted to give her a send-off since he's done the Pacific Crest Trail as well. And I got her a gift, guys. You know what I got her? I was trying to think what to get her and trying to think what to get her. Hi, Paolo. And I didn't find it. My husband found it, bless him. Found a solar charger. So we got her a 10-watt solar charger, so she'll be able to charge her batteries with the sun, so she'll be able to take more videos and share more videos with us, guys. So I'm really excited about that. She leaves Tuesday. And oh, thank you, Paolo. Now, of course, they always want more pets. Soda's going to be back here grooming my nose here in a minute. Don't you know it? My nose is never properly groomed, guys. Yes, I was really excited about it, Oregon Valley Girl. And my husband looked very hard and found one, because I have the same batteries Lisa does, because she told me about the batteries on Amazon, and they were only $10, so I knew exactly how much it weighed. So he found the solar charger weighs less than the battery. So we should be able to watch more of Lisa and give her more support while she's on trail. She's going to fly down. She flies down Tuesday morning, and so she's going to hit the San Diego org sometime on Tuesday. So that's that. That was exciting. It was good to see her. I'm glad I got a chance to see her before she leaves. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that you lived where for 8 years, Marissa? I'm really glad I got a chance to see her off, because that was going to be this weekend. But the weather, you guys, San Diego. Right. I don't think I've seen anybody. Hi, Mandy, sweetie. How are you? Hey, will you email me your phone number, honey? I want to talk to you about the allyship group thing. And I could email, but it'd be much easier if you're willing to send me your phone number. It's something I could have emailed you, but I'm just thinking about it because I saw you. I could have asked you earlier when we were chatting, and I didn't even think of that. So, Lisa, lunch. Yeah, we can video chat. Absolutely. If you prefer that, I'm cool with that. Soda's gonna go bye-bye, y'all. There he goes. There he goes with his bad self. He's gonna... We'll email and figure it out, Mandy. That's easier. That's fine. So she's gonna hit the San Diego panel. Yes, I am. Pain. Panel. Which one do you mean, I? Because I'm seeing both. That's my eyes. I need to put my reading glasses on. It probably says panel. Yes, it does. It says panel, not pain. With exclamation marks. Okay, guys, are you ready for this really, really exciting paper? This is Sequencing in Conversational Openings. And it's from 1968. It's almost as old as I am. So he's talked about the introduction. We've gone into the introduction, and now he's talking about what problem he wants to address. And if you guys want to chat, I'll be watching the chat, just like always. Yeah, I can't wait to see. Yeah, I was born before 68, Marissa. I am old. I am older than most people think. I get that a lot. People think I'm my son's girlfriend. Sometimes it's a little strange. On the other hand, when I would go out with my father, people would think I was my father's girlfriend. So, yeah. Yeah, people don't think I'm near as old as I am. Which has its benefits sometime. Is she lots of help? Yeah, people think I'm 10 to 15 years younger. My mom looks really young, too. You love these? Aren't these the best? They're just reading glasses, Sunrise Dawn, but I love them. I got 3 pair. They came in a pair that are silvery gray, and this pair and another pair I think is pale pink. But this is my favorite color. The only thing I wished they were like encrusted with gemstones or something around here. But I will take what I've got. I have to say, guys, once again, I appreciate that you all come and hang with me. I had an amazing report from somebody who comes and watches and just lurks, usually. And it's, yes, exactly. I want to bedazzle them, but I got a bedazzler that'll bedazzle for hot fix jewels, but they just come off. They just pop off. So I think probably what I need to do is file the glasses down. What I'm going to have to do is buy another pair because I'm afraid to just experiment and ruin this pair. So that's what I'm going to have to do, is just buy another pair, and then I can bedazzle. Then I can experiment with the bedazzling of that pair, because the hot fix gems did not stay on. They did not stay on. Maybe I was doing it wrong, but we shall see. Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue will do anything. Yes. I'll buy another pair, and then I'll be able to see it. Anyhow, so I got a good report even about the study streams, that you guys actually enjoy the study streams. And I never would have thought that you guys really enjoy the study streams. So, I mean, I obviously you enjoy the study streams because you come and show up and you listen. Hopefully Pup Groomer will show up and then you won't have to remember. How's that, Sunrise Dawn? She usually shows up at some point during the conversation. I know the feeling though. I just need to say things out loud to somebody and hope that it remembers. You love the study streams. You guys. Okay, then let's get to it. This is 1077. $15 pages. So you're going to call her? Okay. Did you guys see? You guys saw all the new signs that she made. I don't know yet, Cabana Chica. I'm still sick to my stomach. Hopefully I'll find out Monday. We shall see. We shall see. We don't know yet. She wasn't done with them last Monday in class. She hadn't graded them yet. And class was canceled Wednesday because the university was closed because protests. And so we haven't gotten them back yet. And I'm desperately afraid. Yeah. Desperately afraid. I hate waiting for papers back. Oh my goodness gracious, Sunrise Dawn. The soap triggers a seizure? How terrifying. I'm going to the large public university in the middle of Portland. Hi, Alicia. It's nice to see you. If people can't, I go to a large public university in the middle of Portland. It's PSU. It has occurred to me that might cause problems, but I can't hide everything about my life when yeah. Public university in Portland. There aren't many. There's lots of colleges, though. You found out that some soap have fragrances and chemicals that cause seizures. Jiminy Christmas. Jiminy Christmas, Sunrise Dawn. It's just people and paper. You have slayed these lots already. I know, but this is a different teacher. It's a different paper. I wrote different. It feels like it's the same. It feels like it's different. I don't want to expect an A. Yes, it is scary that soaps have fragrances and chemicals that cause seizures in dogs. That is terrifying. Okay. So he's addressed past research. That only took a page because it's 1960 freaking 8. And then he says, the problem I wish to address is the following. The ABAB formula describes the sequencing of a two-party conversation already underway. It does not provide for the allocation of the roles A and B, where A is a first speaker and B is a second speaker. between the two persons engaged in the conversation. Without such an allocation, no ready means is available for determining the first speaker of the convention. The ABAB sequence. Yes, Sunrise Dawn. It's got to be heartbreaking. I've seen other people who have that problem with dogs, and it does seem incredibly heartbreaking to have happen. Sorry, guys, if I'm going to read out loud for you. I need a mouth lozenge. Without such an allocation, no ready means is available for determining the first speaker of the convention. The ABAB sequence makes each successive turn sequentially dependent upon the previous one. It provides no resources when who the first speaker might be is treated problematically. I would like to try to examine the ways in which coordinated entry by two parties into an orderly sequence of conversational turns is managed. Notice I do not mean to identify a turn necessarily with any syntactic or grammatical unit or combination of units, nor with activity. In the former case, it should be clear that a turn may contain anything from a single or less to a string of complex sentences. In the latter, it is crucial to distinguish a single turn in which two activities are accomplished from two turns by the same party without an intervening turn of the other. An example of the latter occurs when a question must be repeated before it is heard or answered. An example of the former is the line following the inquiry. How are you? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? No. How are you? An example of the former is the line following the inquiry, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? A turn, as I am using the term, is not the same as what Goffman refers to as a natural message, which he describes as the sign behavior of a sender during the whole period of time through which a focus of attention is continuously directed at him. There are, of course, other views on the matter, such as using a period of silence or appreciable pause to mark a boundary. But unanalyzed pauses and silences are ambiguous, theoretically, as to whether they mark the boundary of a unit or are included in it. Telephone conversation. The distribution rule. A first rule of telephone conversation, which might be called a distribution rule for first utterance, is the answerer speaks first. Hi, Windy City Thetan Watch. How are you? It's so good to see you here. Yeah, Sunrise Dawn, maybe with some medication. He'd have fewer seizures. First rule of telephone conversation, which might be called a distribution rule for first utterances, is the answerer speaks first, whether the utterance be hello, yeah, Macy's, shoe department, Dr. Brown's office, Plaza 15000, or whatever. It is the one who picks up the ringing phone who speaks it. The greeting. This rule seems to hold in spite of a gap in the informational resources of the answerer. While the caller knows both his own identity and typically that of his interlocutor, whether a specific person or an organization is being phoned, The answerer, at least in most cases, knows only who he is and not specifically who the caller is. Well, that's interesting. That's changed. Phenobarbital? Well, that would be good. My son called, and his Alaskan Husky, who is 9, she's 9. I think she's old. Maybe she's 12. But she's got blood in her urine, so he's really concerned and is going to get her to the vet tomorrow. Can you guys tell this is written late? The answerer, at least in most cases, knows only who he is and not specifically who the caller is. Yeah. She's old. It's been hard. That is not to say that no basis for inference might exist, as, for example, that provided by time of day, the history of a relationship, agreed upon signaling arrangements, etc. To the question, whom are you calling? A caller might give a definitive answer, but to the question, who's calling? The answerer, before picking up the phone, can give only a speculative answer. Well, that's changed, hasn't it? Without developing a full analysis here, the import of the gap in the answerer's information ought to be noted. If, in this society, persons uniformly used a single standardized item to open a conversation without respect to the identity of the other party or the relationship between the two, then the informational lack would have no apparent import, at least for the opening. This, however, is not the case. A variety of terms may be used to begin conversation, and their propriety is geared to the identity, purposes, and relationship of either or both parties. Intercom calls, for example, are typically answered by a yeah or a yes, while incoming outside calls are seldom answered in that way. In citations of data in which the police receive the call, D refers to the police dispatcher and C refers to the caller. Number 68. D. Yeah. C. Tell 85 to take that crane in the west entrance. That's the only entrance that they can get in. D. Okay, will do. C. Yeah. Number 88. D. Yes. C. Officer Novalata. D. Yes, speaking. C. Why, this is Sergeant Blank. D. Yes, Sergeant. C. And I just talked to blah-de-blah. Number 123. D. Yeah. C. If you can get a hold of car 83, go and tell him to go to blah, blah, blah. Yeah, everybody do what Sunrise Dawn says. Full consideration of the problems that this answerer's information gap presents and some solutions to it requires reference to aspects of conversational openings other than sequencing and cannot be adequately discussed here. It may help to gain insight into the working of the distribution rule to consider speculatively what might be involved in its violation, and the reader is invited to do so. For the illumination of normal scenes produced by considering disruption of them, I indebted to Harold Garfinkel. That was apparent. One possible violation would involve the following. The distribution rule provides that the answerer normally talks first, immediately upon picking up the receiver. To violate the rule and attempt to have the other person treated as the one who was called, he would not talk but would remain silent until the caller spoke first. Suppose after some time the caller says, "Hello?" This might be heard as an attempt by the caller to check out the acoustic intactness of the connection. In doing so, the caller employs a lexical item and perhaps an intonation that is standardly used by called parties in answering their home phones. This would provide the violator, i.e., the answerer acting as caller, with a resource. Given the identity of the lexical items used by persons to check out and to answer in this case, the violator may now treat the checking out hello as an answering hello. Continuing the role reversal, he would be required to offer a caller's first remark. We may note that without respect to the detailed substance of their remarks, it is a property of their respective utterances that the answerer typically says just hello, whereas the caller, if he says hello, typically then adds a continuation. "This is Harry." Our hypothetical violator, in having made a caller's first remark to achieve the role reversal, must then say hello with a continuation. To be sure, the caller might say only hello so as to invite the called person to recognize who is calling. This is a common attempt to establish or confirm the intimacy or familiarity of a relationship. To cite one instance from our data in which a police complaint clerk calls his father, number 497, other. "Hello?" Police. "Hello." Other. "Hello, the letter, you forgot that letter." Police. "Yeah, but listen to me, the blank just blew up, blah de blah." The intimacy ploy, however, is available only to a genuine caller and not to the hypothetical violator under consideration. If the violator says it, the genuine caller might hear it as a correct answerer's first remark that was delayed. The attempted violation would thereupon be frustrated. Are you guys understanding this? In saying hello with a continuation, however, the would-be violator would encounter trouble. While trying to behave as a caller, he does not have the information a genuine caller would have. In having to add to the hello to play the caller's part, the choice of an appropriate item depends on his knowing, as a genuine caller would know, to whom he is speaking. We may give 3 examples of what this bind might consist of. 1. One common addition to a caller's hello involves the use of a term of address. For example, answerer, "Hello?" Caller, "Hello, Bill." Not knowing to whom he is speaking, the violator can obviously not employ such an addition. Another frequent addition is some self-identification appended to the hello. Self-identification involves 2 parts, a frame and a term of identification. By frame is meant such things as, "This is blank, my name is blank, or I am blank." Terms of identification include, among others, first names, nicknames, or title plus last name. We may note that the choice both of appropriate frames and appropriate self-identification terms varies with the identity and relationship of the 2 parties. For the example, "My name is blank," the frame "my name is blank" is normally used only in identifying oneself to a stranger. Similarly, when one refers to oneself as Bill or Mr. Smith depends on the relationship between the two parties. Well, hi, Jay. How are you? Welcome. Welcome to the Corner Joint. We are not imbibing now, but we sure will shortly. Similarly, whether one refers to oneself as Bill or Mr. Smith depends on the relationship between the two parties. Our imagined violator would not have the information requisite to making a choice with respect to either determination. Although these two examples are not exhaustive of these two examples are not exhaustive of the variety of a caller's continuations. A great many calls proceed by use of one or more of them, and in each case, a masquerading caller not having the simple information a genuine caller would have trouble in using such a continuation. My name is, my name is, my name is. An alternative continuation for a caller. This is the third example of what the bind might consist of. An alternative continuation for a caller, whether used in combination with one of the foregoing continuations, or as the caller's next turn suggests another rule of the opening conversation. The caller provides the first topic of conversation. This rule would confront a violator with the problem of formulating a topic of conversation that could serve appropriately without respect to whom he is speaking. Whether there are such topics is unclear. A promising candidate as a general first topic might seem to be the ritual inquiry, "How are you?" or some common variant thereof. This inquiry is usable for a very wide range of conversational others, but not for all conversational others. For example, telephone solicitors or callers from the Chamber of Commerce would not be typically greeted in this way. As formulated here, the rule, "the caller provides the first topic," is not nearly as general as the distribution rule. There are obvious occasions where it is not descriptive, as when the caller is returning a call. A formulation that would hold more generally might be, "The initiator of a contact provides the first topic." But this alternative is no better in providing a continuation to hello that is usable for all conversational others. It may be noted here that much of the analysis in this section will be superseded below. Other violations of the distribution rule are readily imaginable and need not be enumerated here. My interest is chiefly in exploring the operation and constraints provided by the distribution rule, as well as the resources it provides for keeping track of the developing course of a conversation. I found, in attempting to imagine violations, that without the proper operation of the simple distribution rule, it was difficult to keep track of who was who the genuine caller, and who the violator, the order of events, what remarks were proper for whom, etc. Although I have attempted to describe the hypothetical violation clearly, I fear and trust that the reader will have been sore pressed to follow the play-by-play account and keep the players straight. May be noted then that not only does the distribution rule seem to be routinely followed in the actual practice of telephone conversations, but that it provides a format by which observers maintain a grasp of the developing activity. I found, in attempting to imagine violations, that without the proper operation of the simple distribution rule, it was difficult to keep track of who was who the genuine caller and who the violator, the order of events, and what remarks were proper for whom. Not only does the distribution rule seem to be routinely followed in the actual practice of telephone conversations, but it provides a format by which observers maintain a grasp of the developing activity. There you go. Hey, y'all, who's shown up? Welcome. Good to see you. If you're on the replay crew, I hope this isn't too boring. Tell me what you think about this paper so far. It's a really old paper. I think that it's background knowledge that we need to have. It must be. Finally, consider as evidence of the binding character of the distribution rule the following personal anecdote recounted by a student. At one time, she began receiving obscene phone calls. She noted that the caller breathed heavily. She therefore began the practice of picking up the receiver without speaking. If she heard the heavy breathing, she would hang up. The point she wanted to make in relating this anecdote was that she encountered considerable irritation from her friends when it turned out that it was they calling and she had not made a first utterance upon picking up the receiver. She took this, I wonder where Susan is too. She took this to be additional evidence for the correctness of the rule the answerer speaks first. However, she has supplied an even more pointed demonstration than she intended. It is noted she could avoid hearing the obscenities by avoiding making a first utterance. However obscene her caller might be, he would not talk until she had said hello, thereby obeying the requirements of the distribution rule. I wonder how true that still is with new phones. What do you guys think? Are things still about the same? Do you expect people to, what's the distribution rule? The answerer speaks first. What do you guys think? Does the answerer always speak first? I think that's true. I think the answerer speaks first. Replay crew, tell me in the chat what y'all think. You think so? Yeah. The distribution rule discussed above holds for all but one of the roughly 500 phone conversations in the entire corpus of data. In the entire corpus of data. Wow. You guys, you cannot imagine how much computers have made. What? Why, IMI? It would be kind of weird, wouldn't it, Dawn? What happened, IMI? Keep us in the loop. But doesn't he know better than that? Especially with no body to language to rely on. The answer has to answer. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's true even though we often know who the caller is nowadays. Bullhorn, huh? That's really too bad. Do you think the researcher got a grant for obvious results? This researcher? I don't know. Let's see. The distribution rule discussed above holds for all but one of the roughly 500 phone conversations in the entire corpus of data. I'm just floored. I'm going to have to put a highlight here. 500 phone conversations in the entire corpus of data. You would think so. All he had to do was sign the paper, but no screens followed and blam, jailed. Shit. The roughly 500 phone conversations in the entire corpus of data. That's okay, IMI. I can't do anything with it right now. I need to keep studying. I didn't get anything done yesterday, and today is almost shot, so I got to get this done. In the vast majority of these, the dispatcher, when calls were made to the police or others, when calls were made by the police, in the vast majority of these, the dispatcher, when calls were made to the police, or others when calls were made by the police, spoke first. In several cases, the tape recordings contained instances of simultaneous talk at the beginning of the interchange, often because the caller was still talking to the switchboard operator when the dispatcher came on the line. In these cases, a resolution occurred by the callers withdrawing in favor of the called. That is, either the caller stopped and the dispatcher continued, or both stopped and the dispatcher went on. Simultaneous talk is of special interest. Yep, that's what I hear, Mandy. What happened? Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what I hear. IMI just broke the news. It sucks. What happened? Bullhorn? I mean, I don't know why I'm asking you again. IMI already said bullhorn. Cat hair on the inside of my reading glasses, y'all. PPA for using the megaphone? What's a PPA? The Scientologists don't have any problem turning their music on and blaring the fuck out of us when we're downtown. They're going to make him spend the night in jail, or are they going to release him? You got it on the TV, but have to keep it muted. So when my youngest was about 2, I caught her walking around the ottoman. She was walking around the ottoman in circles, and every once in so often she would look down on the ground and say, "Shit!" and bend over and pretend to pick something up. And then she'd walk a little farther around the ottoman and she'd bend over and say, "Shit," again. And I realized that what was happening is she was imitating me when I dropped things on the floor. Shit. There are some people going down there to help with his van. Good. I know he's been told a lot of times not to use the bullhorn, I'm sure. I just wish that we could file out citizens' arrests for the Scientologists when they come play the music on loud. It's not illegal, Mandy? Then what, are the cops just being assholes again? They told the cops he was interrupting a religious ceremony. Lovely. Now they're saying they're having religious ceremonies 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, right? Jesus. My ass, too. Simultaneous talk is of special interest because it is the converse of ABAB, which requires that only one party talk at a time. If simultaneous talk could be shown to be regularly resolved via the distribution rule at the beginning of telephone conversations, then its status as a solution to the problem of coordinated entry would be more general. A fully adequate demonstration might involve giving somewhat stronger explication of the notion of one party's withdrawal, perhaps by reference to some utterance unit, e.g., for a sentence begun but not finished. One case clearly does not fit the requirement of the police call. Police make a call. Receiver is lifted and there is a 1-second pause. Police. Hello. Other. American Red Cross. Police. Hello, this is police headquarters, Officer Stratton. Blah-de blah-de blah. Yeah, but I'm not going to talk bad about everybody protests in their own way. I think it sucks that the cops arrested him. But I wasn't there and I didn't see it. I'm sure it wasn't a religious ceremony. Right. But apparently they decided, oh, good. Okay, Mandy. That's what I was hoping. That's what I was hoping. If it doesn't warrant an over, so they're going to release him like they released Windy City Phaeton, right? In this case, the caller talks first, while the distribution would require that the first line be American Red Cross, the statement of the called party. While indeed there is only one such violation in my data, its loneliness in the corpus is not sufficient warrant for not treating it seriously. Two alternatives are open. We might focus exclusively on this case and seek to develop an analysis particular to it that would account for. Yeah, I know they are, Mandy. I know they are. They can do anything. That would account for its deviant sequence. This would constitute an ad hoc attempt to save the distribution rule using a technique commonly used in sociology, deviant case analysis. Alternately, we might re-examine the entire corpus of materials seeking to deepen our understanding of the opening sequencing. We might ask, is this best treated as a deviant case, or would a deeper and more general formulation of the opening sequence reveal properties of the initiation of talk that the distribution rule glosses over? Analysis of the case Analysis of the case reveals that the distribution rule, while it holds in most cases, is in fact best understood as a derivative of more general rules. As we shall see, the additional sequencing rules which this case forces us to examine clarify properties of talk in non-telephone communication as well as in telephone communication. The rules discussed below do not make the distribution rules superfluous, but concern more finely grained aspects of the opening sequence. They require that we analyze aspects of the opening structure that the distribution rule does not handle. The distribution rule is but one, if indeed a most typical, specification of the formulation to follow, and the deviant case is another suggestion. As Michael Moorman has suggested, the distribution rule is no less a special case for having many occurrences, nor the latter more so for only having one. Not a number of occurrences, but common substitution under a more general formulation is what matters. It will be shown that in broadening the formulation of the opening sequence, a set of more interesting and formal properties of the opening sequencing structure are exposed. Summons answer sequences. Originally, we spoke of two parties to a telephone interaction, a caller and an answerer. The distribution rule held that the answerer spoke first. One of the activities in the material under examination seems to be answering, and it is appropriate to ask what kind of answering activity is involved and what its properties are. Let us consider for a moment what kinds of things are answered. The most common item that is answered is a question, and a standardized exchange is a question-answer. At first glance, however, it seems incorrect in regard to the called party as answering a question. What would be the question? A telephone ring does not intuitively seem to have that status. Other items that are answered include challenges, letters, roll calls, and summonses. It seems that we could well regard the telephone ring as a summons. Let us consider the structure of a summons answer sequences. It can be noted at the outset that a summons, often called an attention-getting device, is not a telephone-specific occurrence. Other classes besides mechanical devices such as telephone rings include terms of address, courtesy phrases, physical devices, meaning a tap on the shoulder, wave of a hand, anything like that. It is to be noted that a summons occurs as the first part of a two-part sequence. Just as there are various items that can be used as summonses, so are there various items that are appropriately used as answers. For example, yes, what, uh-huh, turning of the eyes or the body to face the beckoner, etc. Some typical summons answer sequences are telephone ring, hello, Johnny, yes, excuse me, yes, Bill looks up. The various items that may be used as summonsons are also used in other ways. Hello, for example, may be used as a greeting. Excuse me may be used as an apology. A name may be used as a term of address only, not requiring an answer. How might we differentiate between the summons uses of such terms and other uses? Taking as an example items whose other use is as terms of address, it seems that the following are ways of differentiating their uses. When addressing, the positioning of a term of address is restricted. It may occur at the beginning of an utterance, Jim, where do you want to go? At the end of an utterance, what do you think, Mary? Or between clauses or phrases in an utterance, tell me, John, how's Bill? As summons items, however, terms of address are positionally free within an utterance. This way of differentiating the usages has a one-way character. That is, it is determinative only when an item occurs where terms of address as non-summons items cannot. When it occurs within the restrictions on placement of terms of address, it clearly is non-differentiating. As a mere address term, an item cannot occur between a preposition and its object, but as a summons it may, as in the following telephone call. Try to get out, Joe. Yeah. Try to get a hold of. Summons may have a distinctive rising terminal juncture, a raising of the voice pitch in a quasi-interrogative fashion. This seems to be typically the case when a summons occurs after a sentence has already begun, as in the above datum. It need not be the case when the summons stands alone, as in Jim, when trying to attract Jim's attention. A term of address is inserted in an utterance. By that I mean that after the term of address is introduced, the utterance continues with no break in its grammatical continuity. Tell me, Jim, what did you think of? When a summons occurs in the case of an utterance, it is followed by a recycling to the beginning of the utterance. The utterance begun again as in the datum cited in point 1 above. Although in that datum the original utterance is altered when started again, alteration is not intrinsic to what is intended by the term recycling. It is an important feature of summonses and answers that, like questions and answers, they are sequentially used. This being so, the unit of our analysis is a sequence of summons and answer, which shall then henceforth be abbreviated as essay sequence. Question answer sequences shall be referred to as QA. We now turn to an examination of two major and several subsidiary properties of summons answer sequences. Non-terminality of summons answer sequences. By non-terminality, I mean that a completed essay exchange sequence cannot properly stand as the final exchange of a conversation. It is a specific feature of summons answer sequences that they are preambles, preliminaries, or prefaces to some further conversational or bodily activity. They are both done with that purpose as signaling devices to further actions and are heard as having that character. This is most readily noticed in that very common answer to a summons, "What is it?" Non-terminality indicates that not only must something follow, but that summons answer sequences are specifically preliminary to something that follows. Is the continuation upon completion of a summons answer sequence constrained in any way in which party produces it? The very property of non-terminality is furnished by the obligation of the summoner to talk again upon the completion by the summoned of the summoner answer sequence. It is he who has done the summoning, and by making a summons incurs the obligation to talk again. With exceedingly rare exceptions, some of which will be noted below, the summoner fulfills this obligation and talks again. It is the fact of the routine fulfillment of the obligation to talk again that produces data in which every conversation beginning with a summons answer sequence does not terminate there. It may be noted in passing that the structure of summons answer sequences is more constraining than the structure of question answer sequences. It seems to be a property of many question answer sequences that the asker of the questions has the right to talk again, but not an obligation to do so. Summons answer sentences more forcefully constrain both contributors to them. One way to see the constraining character of a non-terminality as a normative property of a summons answer sequence is by observing what regularly occurs when the summoner, for whatever reason, does not wish to engage in whatever activity the summons answer sequence he originated may have been preliminary to. Here we characteristically find some variant of the sequence. "Sam? Yeah. Oh, never mind." Note that in the very attempt to appropriately withdraw from the obligation to continue after a completed essay sequence, an original summoner must in fact conform to it and not simply be silent. Even in telephone conversations between strangers, where maintaining the intactness of some relationship would not seem to be at issue, the obligation to continue talk upon a summoner sequence has been observed to hold. For example, in calling an establishment to learn if it is open, that fact may sometimes be established positively when the ringing phone summons is lifted and hello or an establishment name is heard. Rather than hang up having obtained the required information, many persons will continue with the self-evidently answered question, "Are you open? Are you still open?" Interesting. Although note here it is common tendency to append it to a more reasonable inquiry, one not rendered superfluous by the very act as, "How late are you open?" even though that might not, on the given occasion, be of interest. Yes, covering your bases so that you're not calling, uh, what is it? Do you have some tobacco in a can? What was that? What was that practical joke that went around when we were kids? And you'd call people at Prince Albert. "You have Prince Albert in a jar? Let him out." A property directly related to the non-terminality of summons answer sequences is their non-repeatability. Yeah, that's fine, Sunrise Dawn. Once a summons has been answered, the summoner may not begin another summons answer sequence. A contrast is suggested with question answer sequences, where a questioner, having a right to talk again after an answer is given, may fill his slot with another question. Okay, Sunrise Dawn. Bring back a report. A contrast is suggested with QA sequences where a questioner, having a right to talk again after an answer is given, may fill his slot with another question. Although a questioner may sometimes be constrained against asking the same question again, he may choose some question to fill the next slot. A summoner is not only barred from using the same summons again, but from doing any more summoning of the same other. If, as occurs on occasion, a summoner does not hear the answer of the other and repeats the summons, should the answerer hear both summons, he will treat the second one as over-insistent. This is most likely to occur in those situations where physical barriers make it difficult for the summoned person to indicate his having received the summons and having initiated a course of answering. Continued knocking on the door is often met with the complaint as the answerer is on his way. I'm coming, I'm coming. To sum up, the summoner's obligation to talk again cannot be satisfied by initiating another summons answer sequence to the same thing. This does not mean, however, that one might not have in a transcript of the opening to a conversation two summons answer sequences back to back. As we shall shortly see, if the non-terminality property is not met, i.e., should the summoner not fulfill his obligation to talk again, the answer of the first summon answer sequence may in turn start another with a summons of his own, as in the first line below. E has called M. McNamara, pause. Hello? Yeah, John? Yeah. I just trying to do some intercom here in my own setup and get a hold of you at the same time. We may further see the operation of the non-terminality property in a common misunderstanding of the use of a name. Names may serve, as suggested above, both as simple terms of address or as summoning terms of address. Should a name intendedly uttered as a simple term of address be heard as a summons, the hearer will expect a continuation, while the speaker will not be prepared to give one. While not a particularly frequent occurrence, when found, it usually occurs in the following way. X uses Y's name and in so doing waves. This is a typical way to perform a greeting, part of which is verbally accomplished and part of it gesturally accomplished. The lexical item perceived alone, where a gesture is not seen. Alexa, hush. The lexical item perceived alone, where the gesture is not seen, may be heard as a summons, and one who hears it in this way will then answer it and await the activity to which it was expectably preliminary. The misinterpreted sender, like he who calls merely to find out information that the answer conveys, may feel obligated to say, I was just saying hello. It is worth noting about such occurrences that misinterpreted persons can see how they were misinterpreted. Being able to see the kind of error involved rather than having to investigate its character allows immediate correction. Such availability of the nature of an error may be quite important. One consequence may be the following: that the systemic ambiguity of the term is available when invoked by the second party. One consequence may be the following: that the systematic ambiguity of the term is available when invoked by the second party. suggests that the summoner can see how the error could be made. He can see its methodical character. Members may be able then not only to methodically detect which of the two activities a term is being used for, but also to detect methodical errors in such determinations. The hope may, therefore, be warranted that investigators will be able to describe methods for differentiating terms of address usages from summons usages, even if the three suggestions earlier prove wrong. Non-terminality is an outcome of the obligation of the summoner to talk again. Corollary to that obligation is the obligation of the answerer, having answered the summons, to listen further. Just as the summoner, by virtue of his summons, obligates himself for further interaction, so the answerer, by virtue of his answer, commits himself to staying with the encounter. More will be said about this matter and some of its ramifications in the discussions of what I term the problem of availability. For the present, it may suffice to give an example of a common situation under which the power of this reciprocality makes itself felt. Compare, for example, two ways in which a mother may seek to call her child to dinner from the play area. One way would involve the use of their name as a term of address with a request that he return home. For example, Johnny, come home, it's time for dinner. It is not an anomalous experience in this culture that such calls may elicit no response from the parties to whom they are directed. It may be claimed upon complaint about this non-response that the call was not heard. Contrast with this, however, a sequence in which the child is summoned prior to the statement of the summoner's intention. If the child answers the summons, he is stopped from ignoring what follows it, e.g., Johnny, yes, come home for dinner. Children may resist answering the summons knowing what may follow it and realizing that to answer the summons commits them to hearing what they did not want to hear. Although they may nonetheless not obey the commandment, claiming they have not heard it is more difficult if they have answered the summons. Oh, those of us who have children know this all too well, right? It is to be noted that the non-terminality of a summons answer sequence and the obligations that produce it are mutually oriented to by the parties to the interaction, and may affect the very choice of an answer to the original summons. A prospective answerer of a summons is attuned to the obligation of the summoner to respect the non-terminality of the sequence, to continue the interaction either by talk or bodily activity, once the answer is delivered. A prospective answerer of a summons is attuned to the obligation of the summoner to respect the non-terminality of the sequence once an answer is delivered. He is likewise attuned to their obligation, having answered, to be prepared to attend the summoner's obligated next behavior. Should he not be in a position to fill his listener's obligation, he may provide for that fact by answering the summons with a motion to defer. For example, John, just a minute, I'll be right there. Of course, such deferrals may in fact serve to cancel the interaction, as when at just a minute either intendedly or unwittingly exhausts the span of control of the summons. More will be said below about deferrals and their appropriateness in our consideration of the issue of ability to interact. Sometimes the reply may contain an explicit request to hold off for a moment. The present analysis is intended to explicate why this should be needed, its occurrence being independently establishable, by reference to the temporal organization of the opening sequence. We now turn to a consideration of another property of essay sequences, one that will allow us to examine not only the relationship between completed summons answer sequences and their sequels, but the internal structure of the sequences themselves. Conditional relevance in summons answer sequences. The property of conditional relevance is formulated to address two problems. The first of these is, how can we rigorously talk about two items as a sequenced pair of items rather than as two separate units, one of which might happen to follow the other? The second problem is, how can we, in a sociologically meaningful and rigorous way, talk about the absence of an item? Numerous things are not present at any point in a conversation, yet only some have a relevance that allow them to be seen as absent. Some items are, so as to speak, officially absent. It is to address these problems that the notion of conditional relevance is introduced. By conditional relevance of one item on another, we mean, given the first, the second is expectable. Upon its occurrence, it can be seen to be a second item to the first. Upon its non-occurrence, it can be seen to be officially absent. All of this provided by the occurrence of the first item. We may begin to explicate conditional relevance in essay sequences by employing it to clarify further some materials already discussed. The property of non-terminality may be reformulated by saying that further talk is conditionally relevant on a completed essay sequence. In such a formulation, we treat the essay sequence as a unit. It has the status of a first item in a sequence for which further talk becomes the second item, expectable upon the occurrence of the first. As noted, the specific focus of this expectation is upon the summoner, who must supply the beginning of the further talk. Within this reformulation, if he fails to do so, that fact is officially noticeable and further talk is officially absent. It is by orienting to these facts that an answerer may find further talk coming fast upon him, and, if unprepared to fulfill his obligation to attend to it, may seek to defer it by answering just a minute, as was noted above. Finally, we are getting to the nut of things. My main interest in conditional relevance at this point does not, however, have to do with that of further talk upon a completed essay sequence. Yeah, exactly. My main interest in conditional relevance at this point does not, however, have to do with that of further talk upon a completed summons answer sequence, but with the internal workings of the sequence itself. Simply said, A is conditionally relevant on the occurrence of S. The answer is conditionally relevant on the occurrence of the summons. We can see the conditional relevance of answers on summons most clearly in the following sort of circumstance. If one party issues a summons and no answer occurs, that provides the occasion for repetition of the summons. That is to say, the non-occurrence of the answer is seen by the summoner as its official absence, and its official absence provides him with adequate grounds for repetition of the summons. We say adequate grounds in light of the rule previously formulated that the summoner may not repeat the summons if the sequence has been completed. As long as the sequence is not completed, however, the summons may be repeated. Two qualifications must be introduced at this point, one dealing with the extendability of repetitions of summonses, the other with the temporal organization of those repetitions relative to the initial summons. To take the second point first, in order to find that an answer is absent, the summoner need not wait for posterity. In principle, unless some limitation is introduced, the occurrence of summons might be the occasion for which an indefinite waiting period at some point in which an answer might occur. This is not the case. In noting this fact, a subsidiary property of the conditional relevance of answers on summons may be formulated, the property of immediate juxtaposition. The following observations seem to hold. In question-answer sequences, if one asks a question, a considerable amount of silence may pass before the other speaks. Nonetheless, if certain constraints on the content of their remarks, having to do with the relation of the substantive content to the substantive content of the question, I'd like that, Grant, Chica. I would like that, Grant. That is to say, an item that may not be used as an answer, an item that may be used as an answer to a summons will not be heard to constitute an answer to a summons if it occurs separated from the summons. While this point may seem to imply that temporal ordering is evolved, it is far from clear that time or elapsed time is the relevant matter. An alternative suggested by Harvey Sachs would make reference to nextness plus some conception of pacing, or of units of activity of finer or coarser grain by reference to which nextness would be located. We may now note the relevance of this constraint to the formulation upon the absence of an answer. When we say that upon answers' absences summons may be repeated, we intend to note that answer's absence may be found if its occurrence does not immediately follow a summons. The phenomenon is encountered when examining occurrence in series such as summons short pause, or Dick, no answer, Dick, no answer. In this mechanical age, it may be of interest to note that the very construction and operation of the mechanical ring is built on these principles. If each ring of the phone be considered a summons, then the phone is built to ring, wait for an answer. If none occurs, to ring again, wait for an answer, ring again, etc. When the news hit the papers, it was rescinded. Wow. I am not so sure about that. I think the problem is that we have so much to study that yeah, I take that meth on a regular basis, I. And indeed, some persons, polite even when interacting with a machine, will not interrupt a phone but wait for the completion of a ring before picking up the receiver. Wow. Do people actually wait for the completion of a ring before they answer the phone? That never even occurred to me to do, you guys. Never once. Never once. The other qualification concerning the repeatability of a summons upon the official absence of an answer concerns a terminating rule. It is empirically observable that summonses are not repeated without limitation until an answer is actually returned. There is then some terminating rule used by members of the society to limit the number of repetitions of a summons. I cannot at this point give a firm formulation of such a terminating rule, except to note my impression that summons are not strung out beyond 3 to 5 repetitions at the most. However, that some terminating rule is normally used by adult members of the society can be noted by observing their annoyance at the behavior of children who do not employ it. Despite the formulation in numerical terms, a similar reservation must be entered here as was entered with respect to time above. It is not likely that number or counting is the relevant matter. Aside from contextual circumstances, the requirement of immediate juxtaposition discussed above may be related to the terminating rules. It may be by virtue of a telephone caller's assumption of the priority or nextness of a response given the ring of the phone that the telephone company finds it necessary to use the phone book to advise callers to allow at least 10 rings to prospective answerers time to maneuver their way to the phone. 10 rings. 10 rings. In every modern society, this has happened. Through the ages, people get, and you have to be rocked back in appreciation, but you get it. Yep. 2 rings. Exactly, IMI. 2 rings. 10 rings to permit prospective answerers time to maneuver their way to the phone. Wow. Hey, Alexa, how many minutes is 10 phone rings?
Here's what I found from answers.com. The time it takes for a ring of a telephone is normally about 4 seconds.
4 seconds for a telephone ring. So at least.
By the way, you have a new notification. Do you want to hear it?
No. You had to answer after the first ring?
I don't know that.
Alexa, shut up. One further observation may be made at this point about repetitions of summonses. Repetition does not require that the same lexical item be repeated. Rather, successive utterances are each drawn from the class of items that may be summonses, although the particular items used may change over some string of repetitions. For example, mommy, mommy may then shift to mom, mom, or mother. Jim may shift to Mr. Smith or Jim Smith. A ring of a doorbell may shift to a knock on the door. The mechanical ring of a phone is replaced by some lexical item such as hello when the caller hears the receiver lifted and nothing is said. Yeah, pour my ass, Cubana Chica. She comes in, you know what she comes and tells me? She comes and tells me, an item on your wish list has been discounted. Would you like me to add it to your cart? I'm like, seriously, girl. And then she lights up with notifications and leaves that light on until I ask what the notifications are. And sometimes the notifications are just that something's on sale. Oh my God. She's annoying the fuck out of me. While I am unable to formulate a terminating rule for repetitions of summonses when no answer occurs, it is clear that we have a terminating rule when an answer does occur. Answerer terminates the sequence. As noted, upon the completion of the summons answer sequences, the original summoner cannot summon again. The operation of this terminating rule, however, depends upon the clear recognition that an answer has occurred. This recognition normally is untroubled. However, trouble sometimes occurs by virtue of the fact that some lexical items, hello, may be used as both summonses and as answers. Under some circumstances, it may be impossible to tell whether such a term has been used as a summons or as an answer. Thus, for example, when acoustic difficulties arise in a telephone connection, both parties may attempt to confirm their mutual availability to one another. Each one may then employ the term hello as a summons to the other. For each of them, however, it may be unclear whether what one hears in the earpiece is an answer to his check or the other summons for him to answer. One may, under such circumstances, hear a conversation in which a sequence of some length is constituted by nothing but alternatively and simultaneously offered hellos. Hello, 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 hello. Such verbal dodging is typically resolved by the use, by one party, of an item on which a second is conditionally relevant, where that second is unambiguously a second part of a two-part sequence. Most typically, this is a question, and the question, can you hear me? Or one of its common lexical variants regularly occurs. We may note that the matters we have been discussing are involved in problems having to do with coordinated character of social interaction, whether they be coordinated entry into a conversation, coordinated re-entry into an interrupted conversation, or the coordination of the activity in its course. In particular, we will shortly turn to a consideration of the bearing of summons-answer sequences on coordinated entry. The power on the conditional relevance of answers on summonses is such that a variety of strong inferences can be made by persons on the basis of it, and we now turn to consider some of them. We may first note that not only a thousand snow shovels for Cuba. Does it ever snow in Cuba? I kind of figured it didn't snow much. I remember using rotary phones and phone books too. Who was it in here earlier today who didn't believe that I was born before 1968? It was. Who was it? Marissa. Marissa Martin didn't believe I was born. Yeah, I kind of figured that it never snowed. It would be bad if it snowed. Okay, where are we? The power of the conditional relevance on answers on summonses is such that a variety of strong inferences can be made by persons on the basis of it, and we now to consider some of them. We may first note that not only does conditional relevance operate forwards, the occurrence of a summons providing the expectability of an answer, but it works in reverse as well. If, after a period of conversational lapse, one person in a multi-person setting should produce an item that may function as an answer to a summons, such as what or yes, then another person in that environment may hear that utterance. In that utterance, that is, the government official should have stepped down 20 years ago. 1,000 snow shovels is a lot for Cuba. I mean, and snow shovels aren't good for much else than snow shoveling. Maybe sand shoveling, if you've got some sand that needs shoveled. If, after a period of conversational lapse, one person in a multi-person setting and particularly when persons are not physically present but within easily recallable range, should produce an item that may function as an answer to a summons, such as what or yes, then another person in that environment may hear in that utterance that an unspoken summons was heard. He may then reply, I didn't call you. This then is another sort of circumstance in which we find an immediately graspable error, such as was remarked on earlier. The connection between a summons and an answer provides both perspective and retrospective inferences. A further inferential structure attached to the conditional relevance of answers on summonses can lead us to see that this property has the status of what Durkheim intended by the term social fact. The property is both external and constraining. When we say that an answer is conditionally relevant upon a summons, when we say that an answer is conditionally relevant upon a summons, it is to be understood that the behaviors referred to are not casual options for the persons involved. A member of the society may not naively choose not to answer a summons. The culture provides that a variety of strong inferences can be drawn from the fact of the official absence of an answer, and any member who does not answer does so at the peril of one of those inferences being made. The guy that assaulted Chris a while back was sitting right there by the protesters, and Chris pointed out to the cops. You think he called them to come back? He pointed the guy out, told them what happened, and he filed a report 2 months ago, and they refused to arrest the guy. Oh my goodness. Okay, now we have a whole paragraph of parenthetical. So I'm going to read this whole paragraph of parenthetical. But they accepted the private person arrest on behalf of the Scientologists. Yeah. Terms such as casual option, naively choose, and strong inference are used here in a fashion that may require explanation. Yes, Sunrise Dawn, exactly. Although not supplying a fully adequate explanation, the following suggestion may be in order. By may not naively choose is meant that a person summoned cannot deny that some inference may legitimately be made. If some particular inference is proposed, then in denying it, the summoned offers a substitute, thereby conceding the legitimacy of an inference, though not perhaps of a particular one. If questioned as to the warrant for his inference, the summoner may refer to the absence of an answer, and this stands as an adequate warrant. A sequence constructed to exemplify these remarks might be: Summoner, are you mad at me? Summoned, why do you think that? Summoner, you didn't answer when I called you. Summoned, oh, no, I didn't hear you. I know you're mad, Sunrise Dawn. I know. I know you're mad. I'm not happy either. I'm just hopeful that he's not going to be held overnight. That's what I'm hopeful about. Okay, guys, how are we coming on this? Are we going to get done? Or shall we skip to the conclusion? We don't have a conclusion. Okay, guys, I need to take a 2-minute break. I will be right back. Keep yourselves entertained in chat. Doesn't it, Cabana Chica? Now I'm worried, you guys. While I was gone, the dog got into my mouth lozenges, and they have there's a sweetener that's not good for dogs, y'all. The guy is yelling at Aja and Solomon, saying, "Ze see the devil in you," over and over, and several said he has a knife. He's obviously dangerous, but they don't care. I know, Oregon Valley girl, I hate it too. Come here, Bubba. Please tell me you didn't eat the mint. Yeah, the stuff that's in it's poisonous to dogs. I should keep them up and out of reach, but I forget. can't remember the name of the artificial sweetener. Now I'm all worried. Xylitol. Orion, you gonna check back on DOA? Okay, Sunrise Dawn. Guys, I need to go. I need to see if I can find this mint or if he actually ate it. I don't know what to do. If he actually ate it, then I've got to figure out dangerous dosages and all of that. And I don't know how to figure that out. Yeah, we have film. Orion. Yeah, I need to check on my dog, you guys. That's a good idea, Cabana Chica. I will do that right now. Thank you for that. That's a great idea. I've got some emergency stuff through both of my vet things, so I will do that right now. Okay, thanks a lot, you guys. Talk to you later. I'll let you know what happens with Orion. I'm sure he'll be okay, and I'm just being, no, you guys are always fine. You guys are always fine. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for coming. I'll let you know what's going on with Orion. Talk to you later. Bye bye.